Yo, what's going on, guys? T-Church here bringing you another Fortnite video. And with Solo Victory Cup starting up again really soon, I want to talk about one of the most important aspects of solos, your drop spot. Knowing where you're dropping and how to play is going to be a major key in qualifying to Cash Cup finals and being able to play out games with the best possible loot so you can get a win in finals and claim your first earnings. I'm going to be giving you guys some unique spots that do not include the obvious mythic POIs and covering the pros and cons of each. So let's get into it and make sure you guys stay into the end to see what I think will be the best solo drop this season. First up on our list of drop spots, we're going to have the oil rig and the windmills. Now, the oil rig has a lot of loot just on the rig itself. It's got really good metal as well as a slurp truck and extra barrels. It's also an extremely drop dependent spot, so making sure that you have the best possible drop to secure the oil rig off spawn is going to almost guarantee that you win the off spawn fight and are able to loot up and have an advantage over every other player in the area. Unfortunately, the oil rig is very far on the edge of the map, so you do have to tank quite a bit of zone to fully loot the entire area, but you should be able to easily counter this with the barrels available as well as stacking white heals in your inventory. The train station south of Fencing Fields is going to be an absolutely insane drop as a solo this season. It has 5 barrels, lots of metal, and an insane amount of loot. I do expect this spot to be pretty contested, so to counter that, you can very easily land on the western side of the drop, grab a couple of chests as well as the barrels, and then work your way on top of the building to try to get a view of your opponent, and then decide how you want to handle the off-spawn engagement from there. At the very least, if you can claim the barrels, you have control of the majority of the loot as well as high ground, which should make it pretty easy to win this off-spawn engagement. So this mansion spot that is located on the south side of the map is going to be insanely broken for solos this season, as it has 16 total chests and a vault that has a guaranteed rare chest spawn. This vault also contains about 250 gold, so it's going to be really good for mid-game rerolls and purchasing weapon attachments, provided you can find a workbench. It also has a launch pad available, which should make rotating to zone much easier. Now, a big disadvantage that this spot currently has is a lack of quickly farmable metal. When testing, I did get to max metal, but I had to farm every single little piece of metal, and each piece only gave about 2 to 5 metal per item. This makes it incredibly slow to farm, but with the lack of Storm Surge and solos, this shouldn't be too big of an issue. I would also expect this spot to be highly contested, so practicing fighting off spawn here is a must. So up next, guys, we have this barn located just east of Classy Courts. Some advantages of this drop spot include max metal, a weapon cache, as well as fishing spots. This season, fishing is going to be extremely valuable, as anywhere fishing holes spawn, there are a lot of them, and they give floppers and shieldfish, which means you can come out of this spot with some insane loot and more than enough heals to play out your entire game. Now, one of the biggest disadvantages to this spot is that you're going to be in a valley between 2 hills. With snipers being insanely broken this season, you need to be very careful to not get caught out in the open by someone camping on top of one of these hills, as almost every hill in the game has a launch pad on top of it. It'd be very easy for someone to hit a body shot snipe and close the distance, and then you find yourself in a mid-game fight where you're already at a disadvantage. I also think this spot is going to be highly contested, so keep in mind if you want to land here that you'll likely be fighting off spawn a good bit. Now, a good strategy to go ahead and counter somebody contesting you is going to be to go ahead and land on those weapon caches, get yourself some really good loot. You can actually find those weapon caches here, located on the back side of the building, and then you'll be able to run into the main area and possibly get a couple of the barrels. Alright guys, so another spot that's going to have easy access to fishing holes and really good metal off spawn is going to be this Junkyard just south of Reckless Railway. This spot has some insanely fast metal to farm, as it has junk piles scattered across the open area next to the building. It also has 3 barrels for quick shield off spawn, and is another drop that is highly drop dependent. So if you guys are good at dropping, this might be the spot for you. Basically, if you win the drop, you're almost guaranteed to win off spawn here. Also, just north of the Junkyard, you also have a lake that you can fish at, which, like we talked about for the previous spot, is going to be insanely good for getting stacked on heals. Now, the biggest disadvantage to this spot currently is how light it is on loot. With only 4 chests at the main building, you'll need to rotate into other spots that are already contested in order to get fully stacked. However, because this drop is a little closer to the middle of the map, it should be pretty easy to scout the area around you and rotate some of the extra loot that is scattered around the area. All right, guys, so for our final drop, this lab-looking drop spot on the southeast portion of the map is hands down the most broken drop that is not a named POI. With over 20 chest spawns, 15 barrel spawns, and more metal than any one player could farm in a single game, this spot is absolutely insane. The most broken feature of this spot is going to be the room that has 6 total chest spawns in it. You can see it highlighted here in yellow, and there's also quite a few barrel spawns in this room, so securing this room will get you insanely stacked. You can pretty easily control your game from there. Now, obviously, this spot is more than likely going to be contested, so securing that room and then rotating to the northern side of the POI and controlling space is going to be a must. There's a lot of areas inside the buildings where you can get lurked on, and some verticality outside of the building that you need to be aware of, especially with the mountain above having a launch pad. So you can see that here. To avoid this, just rotate along the eastern side of the POI like this, up to the north, to avoid getting sprayed from the mountain, and ensure that you have enough builds in your inventory to get away from opposing players if you do decide you need to disengage. All right, guys, so that was 7 drop spots that you guys can use in solos to go ahead and try to qualify to solo cash cup finals, as well as make your first earnings. If you guys found this video helpful, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe so that you can continue to support me in bringing you guys extremely helpful content like this. And I will see you guys in the next video.